Kristine Ballard.
And I'm Melony Smirniotis.
And welcome to Art and Up, the place where creatives connect, cultivate and support each other's artistic journey. Today, we have the lovely
Sophie Horne. Welcome, Sophie.
Hi, how are you going?
Hi, Sophie.
We are good. So Sophie is an emerging artist and she's in her final year at National Art School. So great to have you here. Sophie, tell us that beautiful background. I'd imagine that you've always been a creative person. Is that true?
Yes. I was trying to fish out a photograph from when I was about 2 years old, and I was holding a paintbrush and I was very, very highly concentrating, looking at this, what I thought was just like a line painting. But yeah, I've been very creative from a very young age. Yeah.
So Sophie, when did you know you wanted to be an artist though? You went to school, you had a pencil, paintbrush in your hand, I guess.
Yeah. Look, I think I've always wanted to be an artist, but I feel like and I think it happens to a lot of us growing up, was that I guess we had the age-old question of how do you make money as an artist, or how can you make a career as an artist? And I thought, I'll always, go back to art as a retirement thing, or I'll do it later on in life. And it just it just happened that I had a few things happen in my life as in my mid-20s, and I decided to push that forward a little bit further. So yeah.
So did you do that from you went to school, you majored in art things, and then did you follow on? Or did you have any space in between that, think about being a grown-up type thing?
Yeah, I did. I didn't really finish high school. I actually, I did major, did do a lot of visual arts, but I went straight from year 11 into working in an office. I worked as a graphic designer. And through that time, I studied a Bachelor of Visual Communications Design as well as working at the same time.
Oh.
And it was great.
Speaking from as a graphic designer, that is a 10-hour day a job, just that alone.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to have a mentor at that time. So she was my mother's best friend, and I think she may have seen some talent or seen that I was really had quite a lot of promise in the field. And so she owned an agency and decided to teach me, as well as giving me like a junior role in her office at the same time. So yeah, I was very fortunate, very well taken care of. And it was lovely. I then moved into advertising, and I worked as an art director. And there was a big, I don't know if anyone who's listening who's worked in advertising knows that it's like a thankless job, and it's ruthless, and there's a lot of hours, and I just burnt out completely in that role. And I loved being an art director. I loved content creating and ideas. I think ideas is something I love to have, and I love to be involved in that kind of process of idea making. But it was the culture surrounding the advertising world that I think pushed me over the edge, which then, consequently brought me to fine arts now.
Speaking about fine arts, and I know that you are very much ideas driven and concept driven. You have a wonderful way of seeing the world. Tell us, where is your world in terms of studio? Where do you make your art?
Well, right now it's a bit hard to. My studio, I think I would call, is kind of living in the virtual realm right now. So I'm making a lot of video content, a lot of 3D rendering. I'm working on an iPad Pro, which is my life, my baby, and I'm also doing a lot of installation work on the streets and in parks, and it's very site specific and very for lack of a better word, it's very ephemeral, and it goes up, I take photos, and it comes down, so it doesn't live for very long in time and space. But yeah, so I do have a studio. It's at NAS, but NAS is currently closed until further notice. And inside my studio, it's just, I love to work a lot with what you're seeing behind me, which is like iridescent vinyl, a lot of contemporary mediums. So a lot of my paints are paints that were not invented prior to 2000. And I'm using there's a lot of intersection between art and science, and so there's a lot of chemistry involved, a lot of a lot of physics. So yeah, that's kind of.
So Sophie, that's one of my little pet loves. Color. A lot of your work's about color and reflection, and those new technologies with the new paints, which, as you mentioned, were always, for science drives that after, and then the artists come along and go, oh, that's a great material.
Yeah.
So, and I think you were talking about video too. So, one of the new mediums is light, isn't it? It's the screen that we look at and how those colors reflect. So how do you plan your art? Coming from design, then I'm going to figure that the rules and regulations to timing and working backwards, but because you do a multiple things at the same time, do you have a structure for how you organize your art creations?
Look, funny you mentioned that, because I think one of the things that I unlearned at art school is the structure and the timing. I think, as you would know, it was hammered into me during design to you have to have an idea and a concept before you make anything, because it's not going to work. The execution will be all wrong. And I think coming into fine arts, it was really liberating to realize that you could have a concept and a material-led practice happening at the same time. Mm. So if you find a material and you're interested by that material, you're not sure why, just have fun with it, having fun with it and playing around with that material. And your concept will come, I think, and eventually you'll find it. And then you'll keep working to go deeper into that material and deeper into that concept. And it's like this beautiful dance, really. But that's just how I work. And I'm not saying that's the right way either, because I think there's definitely wrongs and right ways for everyone as well. And if you're someone who's quite methodical, like if you're a printmaker, for example, where you have to be you need to have a set process, then that's right as well too. But definitely in my practice, I like to work with the material, and the concept will generate as I make.
Well, I hear that again and again, though, Sophie, and I see the difference is coming from design too, that it's process driven, not product driven. And when you're in advertising, it's product driven because you've got to make sure the client likes it, or it's for a fit for purpose type thing. And that's the most exciting thing. I think the more confident artists or more experienced artists you see, they're in the process and they'll let it see where it takes them. And isn't that exciting? And you just beautifully said that. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think the whole product-driven aspect is still there in the art world as well. And you're the antithesis of that, which is, it gives people that sense of excitement with opportunities opening up where they feel like they don't have to be, locked into this set process or the way in which they were educated. So that's exciting. Can we just hop back to materials? Because when you said nothing prior to 2000, I'm like, damn, I need to know more about these materials.
Yeah, so I work with interference paints, and interference paints were invented in 2004. And they have been around for a little while now, so, almost 20 years old. But in the sense of the word, the colour is not, as I think Kristine, you were saying before about it's about the light and the surface. That's exactly what these paints are about. They're not a pigment. They're a tiny nano prism that when the light hits it at a certain point, it will generate that colour and that interference and that iridescence from it. And that technology of paint wasn't around until 2004. the other paint that I'm using in here is the very famous Black 3.0, which is that that I don't know if anyone's listening is, and please do. It's a really funny and interesting story between Anish Kapoor and Stuart Semple. And this, of course, I'm not using Vanta Black because I can't have no access to it. I'm not Anish Kapoor, but I am able to get the Black 3.0 by Stuart Semple. So I'm using, so anything behind here is like that, that orange color that you're seeing is that's because it has a black behind that surface, not because it's the vinyl itself bringing that color. So it's this interaction between light and color and light and surface, and also what that surface is that generates the color in the painting.
How exciting.
And Vanta Black is that there is no, it absorbs all light. It looks like a hole, and it's used for space and, you know, non-reflective things. And yeah, there's a great story to it, isn't there?
It's really funny and petty as well, but really funny.
Who owns what?
Yeah.
We might have to attach a link to that one in the details.
Yeah.
So Sophie, the focus of your art, we've just discussed colour and reflection. Is that really the thing that drives across the things, or do you work in themes in different projects?
So right now, I have two different projects running at the moment, which I feel are kind of doing this. They're kind of converging slowly into one big body of work. And I think it's around, I'm really interested in the critical post-human lens, in how we relate to our environment and how our environment relates to us, and all about like ontology and agency. You know, I really want to delve away from the anthropocentric like viewpoint of seeing the world, you know. So I like to think of my artworks as me responding to a material that's outside of myself, or with some of my light installations, I'm really interested in how light actually controls us in a way. You know, we structure our life around this phenomenon that happens in the environment. And we, you know, it just fascinates me to think about it that way, that, you know, there is this symbiotic response to what's happening around us and what's happening within us. It's not all us. We're not the omnipresent agent of the environment around us. So yeah, I feel like both of my projects are kind of moving towards a more resolved concept around that, and I'm still researching. So it's like it's evolving all the time.
It sounds lovely to think that the two journeys are, you know, slowly moving toward interrelating or evolving or meshing. So we look forward to seeing what comes of that. Can you tell us, in terms of being an emerging artist, what does a day in the life of Sophie Horne look like in terms of your art life, of course?
It involves, it's really funny. I never used to think that I'd be this kind of artist, but I remember hearing watching a documentary by, he's really famous. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I've forgotten his name. But essentially what he would say is that it takes a long time to wind up to get to those magic moments. And so I feel like what my day would be like is, you know, I'd start my coffee and I'd have a few chats with people. I'm very social. So like I'm usually that person having a chat to everyone. But I found that that's actually part of my process. Like I just start, I'm a very social person. So being around people gives me energy to start my day. I would then, you know, go to my studio, and I would normally have like a task that I would set myself out to, a manageable task, not anything huge, and you know, work towards that. I would usually have like a podcast happening in the background, or like, you know, I'd go for a walk. Or it's not always in the studio as well. Like it might, a day might involve me making making things towards a project. So like it might be me going to Bunnings for the day to buy like stuff for to make stuff, or like making a lot of administration tasks. But you know, I'm not one of those artists who, you know, work overtime, because I think what I've learned from working in advertising is that creativity does not strike you after 20 hours of working. It happens after a good night's sleep and a good self-care routine. So that's at least for me. So I really am strict about that with myself, because I really don't want to burn out from something that I love so much. But I'll make exceptions when I'm on a roll with something and I'm really like, you know, just charged and like I can't stop thinking about it. Then I'll, you know, probably push the envelope a little bit. But yeah, it does involve a lot of me talking to people, because I seem to, one thing that I've carried over from my experience in graphic design and art direction is my need to discuss and to talk and to create a dialogue with people so that I can process what I'm thinking about, which is, I found very interesting learning about my process.
So given that, Sophie, now that we are in Sydney in lockdown, how's that bit for keeping motivation? How's that working for you? Keeping in contact with all those people that helps you kind of keep the vibe up in your work. What happens when you hit a flat spot? What do you do about it?
Well, I won't lie, I have a little whinge. I do, you know, have a little dummy spat where I'm like, life is hard, you know, and that's fine, I think, because I need to have those emotions out. But then once that's over, I don't know, like I just came off a 2-hour Zoom conversation to one of my colleagues. So I try to touch base with some people that I've seen around National Art School. The National Art School are quite good in that they've had us have regular check-ins once a week with our supervisors, so that we do have that face-to-face time to talk about our ideas, to talk through what we've done, to keep us accountable. And I think going forward after National Art School, I do it all the time. I just contact friends who are also artists, and you know, I chat with what I've done. We chat through ideas. We have coffee. We have brunch. Not like we've done now, but you know, it's a Zoom. It's a virtual thing. I really don't like lockdown, as I think a lot of people would agree with. I find it really stifling to my creativity. And, you know, I will be interested to see what I make over the next couple of weeks. So, yeah.
It will be very interesting, you know, to do a little retrospective during lockdown to see how things, if they kept on track or went off track, and if so, you know, how that then provides another layer maybe of interest to the work. So I'm thinking social media with you. But a lot of the social media that I see, and I know there's algorithms and everything else, so I miss things, but quite often it will be, you know, installation work or a work where the artwork is actually physically installed in a means by which, you know, the light hits it at a certain angle. And it's very almost interactive, if you like. Could you talk through how important is social media to you, and what's your plan with social media?
Oh, that's a good question. Look, I haven't really seen the way I look at my social media is more of it's actually more for me than it is for anyone else. I see it as a virtual visual art diary for me. And it's like, it's got a timestamp, it's got what I've done, and I can see it all in a nice, like pretty little grid, you know, I can see it right there. But I think going forward, I think it's a good way for other people to see my work, and in a nice grid and a nice well-rounded format, and also a way of, it's like more galleries are becoming virtual now, and they're more using like virtual galleries, and they're using social media. So I feel like the importance of having that that social platform will be more like, will become more important. The thing that I worry about with social media is obviously is people taking ideas, and so I don't show too much. I show little snippets of what I do. I don't show process. I generally show something that's like either half finished to completely finished. So it's in a way it is and it isn't a virtual VAPD. I've kind of contradicted myself right there, haven't I? but yeah, I don't know. I think it will be important, definitely, on top of everything else. Like to me, yeah.
Sorry, I think, Sophie, maybe you can see the contrast too with the advertising and the art things. Like with conceptual work, you have to buy in, you know, your viewer has to really go in on that journey and understand where it's coming from and things like that. Versus social media, which is a bit of a commercial, right? Bang, this is what it is. It's like, no, you've got to understand. I need more of your attention. So it's hard to, I mean, I think that's like any other art area. It's really hard to show what you're all on about if you haven't got the time. It's just a snippet, which can be good, but it really doesn't show what you're aiming for a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I would argue that for installation work, even a photo that you put into like a catalogue doesn't do the installation justice, because you're not physically standing in space in your experience. Like you said before, like you're not experiencing what the experiences of that installation, and you know, especially some of my work, it is very much about interaction and experience. I'm currently working on programming LED lights so that it changes whenever you walk through the installation. So like how can I convey that like through social media, you know, rather like it's going to be difficult. But I still don't think that it's not going to, like, I still don't think that it doesn't have its place, you know. It's like a stepping stone in a way, you know.
Yeah, it's another layer, I suppose, like I was saying. You have touched on what has been difficult in terms of being an artist. What's the best thing about being an emerging artist, and the best thing about being or having had your experience to date at National Art School?
Oh, I love it. I just think that I live such a decadent life, you know. I feel so full every day because what I do is what I really like feel most comfortable doing, and I feel privileged to be able to do it, you know. Like there's never a day goes by that I do not check myself and check my privilege when it comes to like what I do. And I just love that I have total creative freedom. That's something that I didn't have in in advertising or in graphic design. It's like you're working within a brief, and if you go outside of that brief, it's not right. And that became stifling over time. Whereas in fine arts, I have total freedom to like play with whatever I want to play with, to make whatever I want to make, but also to research whatever I want to research as well too. I'm not stuck into, like, say for example, if I wanted to, if I was a psychologist and I wanted to research something related to, I don't know, engineering, like they wouldn't allow, they're too chalk and cheese, right? Whereas in fine arts, I really feel that if you wanted to do both of those two things, you'd make it work, you know, like there's just that absolute freedom, which I think I need and I crave and I love it every single day. I don't see myself doing anything else in life ever.
Sounds fabulous. So Sophie, what would you say to someone who might be contemplating going to National Art School? You know, that they might think, oh, you know, and at the moment the current environment is like, oh, it's going to cost you money, and I don't think it's changed. How will you get a job? What would give us some of the benefits? I mean, you're a shining example of how great it can make you feel and energized in the world. Can you maybe give some of us out there recommendations for why we want to go?
Well, I think that the beautiful thing about being creative is you'll create the job that you want in a way. So like I don't know, like you don't have to just be an artist. Like, you know, I can't really say because I'm not yet on that side of the achievement angle of it yet. Like I've still got to finish. But I'm not worried about money per se, or wanting to generate money. I have a feeling that I just have a gut feeling that, you know, like you either create opportunities like that will come forward to you, or like, you know, I don't know if that's coming across the right way, but I just think there's a lot more to this degree than just being an artist at the end of it. Like, you know, I'm particularly interested in curating, and I think I might do postgraduate studies in curation. So the idea of, and that also brings home things like, you know, generating ideas. It's like, for me, organizing an art show or having a concept and then writing proposals, that really excites me. I really want to do something like that, as well as being an artist. But you know, there's working for a gallery, there's being a gallery, there's being a gallerist, there's selling work, there's this whole other I think it's just very multifaceted, really. And if you wanted to work in it after art school, they'll definitely give you the tools and the connections to be able to do that if you're willing to do the work. And I think that's the same concept throughout the entire degree. Don't just go into that degree thinking that they're going to push you to make good work. They are going to push you to make good work, but you, at the end of the day, are going to be the one that drives that, not them. So, and I think that's going to be the same when it comes to being in the workplace as well too.
It sounds like you've had a wonderful grounding so far at National Art School, and it has opened you up to opportunities for the near future when this wraps up. So we'll be checking in with you, I think, for a part B, Kristine. We'll be doing that, I think, the follow-up post National Art School, Sophie Horne. And would love to bring your major works into it as well, and have a discussion maybe around that.
Awesome.
Science and art always goes together.
Oh, I love it. Love
so,
that.
Sophie, people can find you on social media at the moment.
Yeah.
You have a website?
I don't have a website right now, but it's in the making. But I do. I've got my socials are artbysophievictoria on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be listing that. Thank you so much for today. And it's whole, again, a different perspective and different way of seeing the art world. And it's been refreshing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All those lovely colours in 3D when we get to. Thanks, Sophie. We better let you keep creating then, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you both about it.
Thanks again, Sophie.
Pleasure for us. Bye.
Bye.